what do you guys want us to do? I just don't want to continue to use the chart method and all of a sudden somebody say, hey, why are you using the chart method?
But if you say, so use the chart method, chief complaint, chest pain for 3 days, or chest pain for 3 minutes, or chest pain for 30 minutes, or whatever, that's, okay, chief complaint duration, and then assessment, or history.
History is next.
And then you go through patient.
Patient had a sudden onset of chest pain this morning at 7 a.m.
7 a.m., there was shortness of breath, patient became
That goes in
nauseated,
assessment.
Diaphoresis.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And then that goes into assessment?
Like history is pertinent information, the way that I was taught.
That's what I want to hear.
Pertinent information to what's happening right now. So the history, when did the problem start? That's basically in the chart method that I was taught. And then you go to A, which is assessment, put in the assessment of the patient.
One of the things that, and you'll see.
Can I just finish this for a second?
Yeah.
So, all right, but it's all complete. It's all a good sized narrative that we can, when we look at it or when someone else looks at it, we get a good impression of what happened, right?
If it's done complete.
I guess
that's
just
the
depends.
issue.
Well, that's
the
what I'm
only
trying
thing
to
that I
get
caught
at.
Doc was at the end when he said that he looks to the narrative. Well, this is just Dave Wilson's opinion here. If you're only looking at the narrative, then you're missing the point of why we have a patient reporting system, which is we're documenting all of this stuff up above. When we first got the system, it was sold to us that that's why we went to the system. But if that's not the way that you guys prefer, or that's not the way that the attorney, and I'm sorry I missed that part, I'll watch it later on today. But if they're saying that that's not, that you want us to redocument that, then I'm okay with that. Just tell me that's what you want us to do.
But let's finish this up. I do think we want you to redo that, because that's what we see, but that's the tension I'm sensing.
Yeah, no, it's not a tension for me, Doc, really, honestly. If you guys want us to do it a different way, I'll do it. I just want to know which way you prefer. Because this is, I know this has come up in the past, and if we're making the switch, that's what it was a simple question. That's what I mean, is that if we're making the switch and we're saying that I want you to do it this way, and I want you to redo the facts in the narrative and document them above, then let's do that. Let's just say that. And then I'll understand what you mean.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm waiting to see if you're finished.
Well, this is really critical. This is the heart. This is the meat of what we're talking about. If we look at a report, and it says, arrived on scene, patient short of breath, assessment as above, transport to room so and so. And to us, that doesn't give a clear picture. What were the circumstances before? What are the associated symptoms? What relieved it? What aggravated it? All the things you know, OPQRST, whatever. And then an assessment, a physical exam. Obviously you don't have to do the so-called medical head, eyes, ears, nose, and throat, but you, at least the critical parts. Lungs were clear bilaterally, or absent breath sounds on the right, or something. And then the rest of your chart, if you use that method, which is okay with me. But if it's just minimal, it's so hard for us to. And then you go back to subjective and objective, and there's not really much there. And you say, boy, I wish that were in the narrative so that I could see it. So
I guess are we reading the entire subjective and objective? Because a lot of times, at least now, this is Dave Wilson's way. That this is only, I don't know what the other guys that use chart are, but I use the other box. I mean, that falls in, where you make notes as you go along with the subjective and the objective. Does that? Are you following me?
I am.
So if your narrative says see documentation or whatever, then you would expect us to go back and look at the subjective and objective.
Well, that's where the information would come from, because that's the way I was taught to do it.
Well, that's what we're trying to get. I really want to get to that.
I mean,
what Willie's trying to do is not put stuff down twice in the narrative. That's his
okay. So that actual question came up yesterday. Someone said, "Why am I writing it twice?"
Right.
All right. So, a couple things that go along with that. If you can remember back to when we were doing paper reporting, all those checkboxes were there also, and we still had the narrative. The checkboxes do, at least the way I look at the checkboxes, do two things. One, not only am I looking at the report as a patient care report, but also I'm looking at it for data, okay? how many IVs were started, things like that. And when we go to look for data, that's where we go to those. That's where that data comes
Those
from.
data
Check
points
boxes.
get pulled out.
If you write, I started an IV, 16 gauge needle, et cetera, in the narrative, I can't pull that when I go to look for data because I'm just looking at that. The computer just looks at that IV section. All right. So yes, you end up documenting some of it twice, technically. Started the IV, 18 gauge needle, blah blah blah, up here. However, if there is a problem with the IV, or if there were multiple sticks, or so, those are the things we need to know later.
I guess
okay?
what might help is to bring up one of the reports that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Just because maybe it's not clicking in my head
Exactly.
what you're looking for.
I agree with you. I don't think we are clicking. Joe, by the way,
All right, yeah, so I don't do the chart method, I write the paragraph, but I still don't repeat everything that I've put, like all the vitals. If I've written them in the vital section, I don't repeat those back in my narrative.
No, you don't have to.
I agree with
You know, there's some things I don't repeat, some things.
Exactly. But the
Right.
critical part, your
Right.
assessment, just,
Yeah.
I mean, you just put yourself in our position looking at it. We say, what happened? I mean, what happened to this patient? I don't know. I don't have a clear picture.
And see, like, I use the chart method also, like Dave and apparently some others, but I use the chart to expand on the stuff that I put earlier. So if I put chest pains as a chief complaint in that drop down, then in my history would usually be like, was a 67-year-old male, found alert wake and orion times 3, sitting on his couch complaining of chest pain, substernal, this. And then I would expand on that more, the history. Does he have a history of cardiac surgeries, a history of it? That's in my H section on my chart. And I was kind of tied in my assessment with the treatment portion, so I used the A as allergies and had that to stand out, separated down there. Because again, everybody goes to that, well, the nurse probably missed that he's allergic to, erythromycin. If you're looking at that, then you can see that stand out. But I guess if we have a standardized,
Yeah, well,
just let me know.
What were the lawyer's reasons for not liking the chart?
One of the
Why did-
reasons,
why did
his
I miss
main
that?
reasons for not liking the chart method was it's not exactly how you discover things in a patient. You may go up to, he's the attorney, he's not our attorney, but
A broader description.
He said that using the chronological thing is how you a lot of times discover what's going on. When you first got up there, your initial, I found this patient, this is what they complained of, but so I treated that, but then 5 minutes later, they complained of something else, and so I treated that, or I found that out.
You said the chart didn't paint the picture.
It didn't
The
paint the
narrative paints the
so-
picture, so in 3 years when you get called to stand, you've got a better way to recall your memory
So
than just the chart.
Willie asked me to bring something up. This is just.
Can you make it a little larger?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Alright.
This.
Sorry.
This happens to
I'm with
me.
you, bro. My eyes are just, what's wrong?
I just had this saved as an example
So
of
do you
chart.
have,
Hold on, wait. I know there's a place.
Down to the road.
Actually, go down to the
Control
right,
and
there's
roll
a
it.
sliding scale right there. Should be able to, there you go.
Thank
You're
you.
in front of me,
Thank
guys.
you.
Is that better?
I can see it till it comes really close to me.
Okay.
So,
Just-
and again, this is just the narrative. We don't know what was written up above.
yeah, that was my point, is do you have one that we can compare when we have the whole documentation?
Right, but remember, and again, you missed to some of the conversation that the attorney brought out. And what he suggested, and what I'm hearing is our medical director and our medical coordinator are agreeing, they want more information, not less. They want to be able to read more about the patient. That's what, so the check boxes, I got you, there are, and like Joe said, the vitals. I used to write reports myself, just like everybody else in the room. And when the check boxes came in, I would write in there just a simple thing, vital signs as noted above. Boom. I didn't put them all in, but as somebody's reading the report, oh, at this point he took vital signs, and went back up and were able to look at the vital signs. So I think what they're looking for is more detail, more information.
And I
So
always
you
go
just
back
want
to the
more
way.
information back in the narrative docs,
Yes.
is that,
It-
that's
it's-
your point?
it is
So do you
easier
want
at
me
least-
to, like, when I do, I'm just using our software, for example, when you take vital signs, it does a thorough assessment of head to toe. I mean, it does what you're talking about, like what you do with vital signs. So not only does it in that section, the way that I learned the system, the way that it was taught to me was you document the blood pressure, the heart rate, the respirations, but then you go into all the other assessment parts in that are in that. You go into their coma scale, you go into their skin color, their skin temperature, whether or not they're diaphragmatic. All that is listed in vital signs. So on stuff like that, I don't list that in my narrative currently. Again, if this is what you want me to do, then I'll stop putting it up above and I'll put it in the narrative down below. I'm okay with that. I just want to know which way we want to go.
One of the things that would make it at least easier for me when I'm reading your thing is just confirmation that those things were done. So vital signs taken, or no abnormal neuro assessment or something. And so if it,
Well,
I know you
a
did
different
it.
section. That's under the patient assessment section.
Well, it just I know it's somewhere in there. The other thing that does make it easier to review these, and I'm not just trying to make it easier to review for myself, but when other people look at this, when the hospital calls me and goes, hey, I just got this report, I need to make sure that this is done, and then I try to go through the whole report with them.
Yeah.
But if it was in one place, I sometimes don't get that call. So when people reuse all the comment sections in the different areas of the report, to me, it makes it more cohesive if those are all in one place and just stick them in the narrative.
Well, but so to give you an example of that kind of report, I'll go over to the vital signs.
Yeah.
Because it's a CVA, and I'll say, well, I wonder when the symptoms started. I wonder what they found on exam, and I'll scroll down to coma scale and then stroke scale, and it says abnormal.
Okay.
Well, I really don't know whether you found hand weakness or pronator drift or patient couldn't walk or.
So are we having people that don't put that?
Yes.
If it's a stroke? Because me personally, I list that stuff when I do it.
Well, but but if you just say, see vital signs section for this information, left arm weak to grasp or whatever in the narrative, then at least when people look at it, they've got a sense of what was found. See what I mean?
I think that's the problem is you're using the other, like I do the same thing, I use the other box. Like if I find something and there's something that's going on with that, like you said, abnormal, I'll go to the other box and I'll put if there's something small and abnormal with that so that it's there. Same thing sounds like you're doing, but there's guys that are just checking the abnormal box and then doing that for their chart, so you have no idea what.
We're trying to remind everyone on the department to be as thorough as possible. And
But if we pull it up and we see 10 lines of narrative, it really is comforting because we feel like there's a good assessment. If it's a 2-sentence narrative, it's just hard to get a handle on that. I guess I hear what you're saying. We should maybe take some time and go through other sections and look at it. I'm not sure you need to take it out of the vital signs section.
I guess most of the guys that are doing those type of assessments are doing what we were taught when the system came in. We've had this system now for 10 years. Might be longer than that. How long, when do we go to this?
Probably, but
been
on
at
the other
least 10.
hand of it, there's probably only 3 or 4 people on the entire department that don't use a paragraph method.
Okay, but you're telling me that the paragraph method, the people that do use it, they all write what you guys are looking for?
No, but they're.
Do you see my point?
No, they're writing some of it, but what we're asking is, and why we did this entire 5 little videos,
Okay.
it also reminded them what to put in their paragraph method too.
Well, maybe after I watch the video, I'll understand more of what you want me to
I
put
think
into
you
the
will.
narrative.
He does a nice job of going
Okay.
through of what really we should look for and include in our reports. And
Okay.
obviously he does it from a litigation side, to save all of us later. But he also mentions very, very distinctly, we are doing this for the patient themselves, for someone else reading this to see what we did for that patient. So, all right. Couple other things, and we'll get you out of here. We're gonna I wanna go.
I'm sorry, you put this up here for a reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I put this up because he wanted to see.
Spell check.
He wanted a chart method. I didn't realize he wanted an actual report, and I do not have. I'd have to go in and find one and pull it out
Yeah,
later on.
I was just saying, like, if we could look and discuss while Doc's here and you were here, like you pull one of those that has the chart, but it's actually like a PCR. So you can say, okay, this information isn't in the narrative, and this is what we would rather see in the narrative.
We can do that.
Yeah, but it's gonna take me a while to find it.
Right, but it can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be done today. I mean, it's something we can have it more training on. That's my point of the whole thing. If we're gonna switch, then I think that, because I'm not understanding, I guess, exactly what you want me to put additionally in there, because, and it could be, I'm totally wrong, but I feel that my narratives are pretty complete, along with all the information that I document above.
And I can't speak to your narrative or Joe's or anybody, I don't read the narrative, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
I'd be the first to say. But I really think that the goal here, my takeaway is this is more information, not less, and paint a very good picture so the reader sees exactly what you saw, and not exactly, that's probably, it's a little bit of a stretch, maybe not exactly, but sees what you saw and understands your thought process and sees your treatment modalities, whether the patient got better or worse, those type of things.
And I would say I'm the one who gets the first QI for everybody on our shift, and I've read your narratives along with Zach's and everybody else's, and the majority of our guys do use a paragraph form. I, however, use the chart method also, so when I read your reports, I get it. Like I get it.
Well, we were trained by the same person too. So.
Yeah, but after seeing some of this stuff, I'm even looking at how I did some things and going, well, you know, if I didn't know and I wasn't familiar with that same format, then, you know, if I was a jury of 12 people trying to make a decision that didn't know anything about medicine, I wouldn't understand that is the chronological order of how things went down, and then I can look there. I learned a lot today myself just reviewing it, but again, I'm somebody who uses the same method, so when I see your stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I just move on with it. But I think I do have to say the guys that write the paragraph form, which is closer to how I write my fire narratives, it does paint a little bit better picture. You know, like he said, we don't want to take it from a defensive standpoint, but if you had 12 people sitting in a box that don't know anything about medicine, trying to figure out what happened to this person and why you did what you did, that paragraph form does make it easier to understand the story, I think. Like I said, that's how I write my fire narratives, is kind of like that in order from what the call was to arrival to what we found and what we did in service. But I don't know, that, like I said, watch the other videos. I think that's the part, you only got part 1 and part 5.